When I was 12, my family lived in a rental house near our soda dealership. Most days I was home alone. The ground floor had been converted into a storage area, stacked with boxes and soda cases, leaving almost no space to move around. Because of this, my sister and I mostly stayed on the second floor, each in our own room. The staircase leading down faced a window that originally overlooked a veranda, but since the ground floor had turned into a stockroom, the veranda outside that window was now packed tightly with empty soda cases and boxes, stacked so high you could barely see beyond them. Only one person could squeeze through when the main door to the terrace was open, just enough space for workers to keep piling up the empties. One morning, I was hurrying downstairs to head out the back door. As usual, I grabbed the stair railing to swing my body left toward the kitchen and the exit, but something stopped me mid-motion. Through the window at the base of the stairs, through the murky, cluttered view of that terrace, I saw someone standing outside. At first, my eyes were drawn to their shirt. It looked familiar, too familiar. It was the exact same shirt I was wearing. I froze, staring at the figure. My gaze locked on their chest. Something didn't feel right, but I couldn't look away. Then slowly, I raised my eyes to their face, and that's when I saw it. It was me. Same shirt, same hair, same face, but not the same expression. This version of me was staring downward with a disturbing smile on their face. A smile I didn't recognize, one that didn't belong to me. It felt wrong, twisted in a way that made my skin crawl. I stood there, completely frozen, as this other me slowly began to lift their head, like it was about to meet my gaze. Panic surged through me. I didn't want our eyes to meet. I didn't want to see what was behind that smile. Before it could look at me, I bolted. I ran straight out the back door and found my sister, telling her everything that had just happened. Of course, she didn't believe me. She said it was probably just a reflection in the window, or maybe I imagined the whole thing. But I know what I saw. It wasn't a reflection. It moved differently. It smiled in a way I never have, and it was waiting to look me in the eyes. Even now, as an adult, long after we moved out of that house, I still think about that moment. I still remember that smile, and sometimes I still see it in my dreams. Hello, my name is Heather, and this story took place a few years ago. I often stayed home alone for a couple of hours, but this particular night my parents were out of town for the weekend, and it was the first time I had to sleep alone with no one else in the house. This didn't bother me though, because I had just finished a stressful report for school that took a whole week, and I was ready to relax. My parents left at around 8 p.m. that night, and I decided to put a movie on and eat some pizza. It started raining heavily out of nowhere, and when this happened, my parents always told me to go outside and pull the pool cover out and over the pool. This was because if we didn't, the pool would overflow. Anyway, I was kind of nervous to go do it because it had already gotten dark outside, and behind my house was a forest where wild animals often came out at night. I decided to wait the rain out to see if it would stop, but after 20 minutes, it didn't. I sighed, then decided to put my fear aside and go to the backyard. I turned on all the deck lights and walked toward the pool. That's when I noticed something weird. The pool was already halfway covered. I was confused. It had only started raining 20 minutes ago, and I didn't think it was covered when my parents left, so why was it covered now? I tried to convince myself it was the wind, but deep down, I knew it couldn't have been. The cover has to be manually adjusted. Still not convinced it was the wind, I approached the pool with caution and continued to cover it. Then suddenly, I heard a noise. It wasn't anything crazy, nothing more than a branch swaying in the wind, but I was already on edge, so I noticed it right away. As I looked into the darkness of the trees, that's when I noticed a flash of light. It was very quick, like whoever was holding the flashlight realized I was looking. This made me extremely nervous, so I quickly ran back inside, locked the doors, and went to my room. Since my room faced the backyard, I made sure to keep the deck lights on so I could look through my window and see if anyone was there. I began trying to calm my mind down, so I started knitting in my room, while periodically checking my window to see if there was any movement. After about an hour, my mind calmed down and I stopped checking as much. Then, just one last time, I looked out of my window and saw that the pool cover had come off again. This time, it did look like the wind could have pushed it backward, so I went outside once again and covered it. The rainstorm had slowed down, so I knew this was probably the last time I had to do it. After a couple of hours, I decided it was time for bed. I double-checked all the locks and made sure the alarm system was on. If you're wondering why I didn't turn the alarm on before, it's because it's an automatic system that turns on every night at 11 p.m. I turned off all the deck lights except one, the motion sensor light. At this point, my parents had called to check in, but I didn't want to worry them, so I just told them that everything was okay, which technically it was. There had been no movement in the forest so far. Then I went to sleep. I woke up at around 2 a.m. because the motion sensor light turned on. I slowly got up from my bed and peeked out my window, which was right above it. As my vision adjusted, to my confusion, I noticed the pool cover was off again. Was this some kind of sick joke? Did whoever was doing this just want to keep me coming outside? I looked into the distance, but saw no lights or movement. I went outside again, this time with a knife, and walked up to the pool to cover it. That's when I noticed it. To my horror, there was someone inside my pool. For context, even with the cover on, there was still enough room for someone to comfortably breathe. They were dressed in all black, with a hoodie on in the farthest corner of the pool. I was in shock. Then suddenly, they started swimming extremely fast toward the ladder, which was right in front of me. And when I say fast, I mean unnaturally fast. I screamed, stupidly dropped my knife, and ran inside. As I was locking the door, the person, who I now realized was a man, ran up to the glass sliding doors and started banging on them with the knife. I was horrified. I called the police right away and hid in my bathroom until they arrived. My parents came home shortly after and informed me they had actually covered the pool completely before they left. So the man had been lurking in my backyard for even longer than I had thought. The police caught the man and arrested him. They later informed my family that the man was homeless and had previously been a professional swimmer who had won a lot of medals. This made sense considering how fast he swam. Anyway, this happened to me a few years ago, and I still can't look at pools the same. Even now, when I recall the moment that man started swimming toward me at full speed, I still get goosebumps. I want to share an experience that happened about 8 months ago. My name is Aishwarya, and I study computer science at a university. I can't say the name, but it's located in India. My college is near a reserved forest area, and I stay in a campus hostel. The building has 5 floors, and I live on the 4th floor. Our room has 4 beds, and I share it with 3 other friends. Every night after dinner, we usually sit by the window and gossip. Just normal things like boys, fashion, and new trends. From our window, we can see a beautiful lake behind the hostel. It became our routine. We'd sit there, talk, and admire the view of nature, sometimes staying up until 2 in the morning. But one night was different. I had a headache, so I went to sleep early, around 10. One of my friends, Sid, had been fighting with her boyfriend, so she wasn't in the mood to talk either and went to bed early too. The other 2 stayed up by the window like usual. At some point in the night, I think around 1 in the morning, my friend Pravalika suddenly woke me up. She was shaking, terrified. I asked her what was wrong, but she couldn't even speak. She just pointed toward the window. I got up quietly and walked over. Sid and my other friend, Jesse, were already there, frozen, staring outside. When I looked out the window, my jaw dropped. At first, I couldn't even process what I was seeing. It didn't feel real. Down near the lake, there were 2 men, half naked, dancing around a fire. Around them were more people. I couldn't tell how many. Some were standing still, others looked like they were praying. We couldn't see everything clearly, but one thing was certain. They were performing some kind of ritual, and it wasn't just any night, it was a new moon. Where I'm from, people say that on new moon nights, devil worshippers perform rituals, sometimes even sacrifices, to impress the devil. All four of us stood there, completely frozen, staring out the window. It was the first time we had ever seen something like that. I felt this deep sense of unease, so I said, "Let's not watch this. Let's just go to sleep." One of my friends quickly recorded a short video before we turned away. The next day, we showed it to a few of our other friends. Everyone was shocked. But that wasn't the worst part. Later that day, we heard that a dead body had been found floating in the lake, a boy from our college. We were completely speechless. The police investigation was closed within a few weeks. They ruled it as suicide, but there was no note, no explanation, nothing. That's when the rumors started. Some people said the boy was involved with a cult. Others said he was trying to expose them. And when they found out, they killed him. No one knows the truth. Maybe it was just a rumor, or maybe it wasn't. But sometimes I still think about that night, and I wonder if I hadn't said, "Let's sleep," would we have seen more? Or maybe something we were never meant to see.